In the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord, and Amen we trust is the Republic of Mentellect, the true 144,000 is being gathered in this day and time, the Mentalists. Menzeka Amin to all of my mentalist brothers and sisters out there, registered members of the Republic of Mentellect, and to all future mentalists who have yet to find their way homes to the Republic of Mentellect, which is Amen's community. I send greetings out to you, and I send peace out to you in our mentalist language by saying to you, Menzeka Amin, in our Mentellian language, I should say, Menzeka Amin. Good evening, I am your host, the intellectual NUBEN MENKARAYZZ. This is Mentellect Radio. Tonight, we're going to be discussing was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the ancient Pharaoh Khufu, reborn? I'm going to say yes. And the reason why I say yes is because it is no coincidence that this Pharaoh, this great Pharaoh, that living in the ancient world of ancient Egypt thousands of years ago, who wore that fez type of crown on his head. There's no way when you have greatness like that, when you have great rulers like that, that they just pass away, they just die and just leave. When you have great leaders, or leaders that lead the people into, you know, a higher state of being, a higher state of thinking, those type of leaders are always regenerated. I said real leaders are born. You cannot make them leaders. How are they born? Because they are reborn over and over and over again. Real leaders are reborn over and over and over again. So whenever you see a leader, a true leader, a real leader, not no fake leaders, real leaders, right, who lead the people who really acknowledge that they are receiving transmission and direction directly from the Creator, right, to lead the people into the future by way of future prophecy. And like I said, they are able to magnify and pull in those people who are doing that. And these people, or these leaders who are doing that, the true leaders, the real leaders, they were leaders of the past world, and they're going to be leaders of the future world again. So this is not the last regeneration of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's not the last regeneration. And it won't, and like I said, we constantly keep regenerating because Amen can use those who are regenerated. I'm going to read you a little bit on the history on Pharaoh Khufu. Khufu, named Khnum Khufu, known in the Greeks as Cheops. You know how they always change our names over the white man get them. Was an ancient Egyptian monarch who was the second pharaoh, first half of the Old Kingdom, 26th century. Khufu succeeded his father Neferu as king. He is generally accepted as having commissioned the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Seven Wonders of the ancient world, but many other aspects of his reign are poorly documented. The only completed preserved portrait of the king in the 3-inch ivory figurine bond in a temple ruin of a later period is Abydos. In 1903, all other reliefs and statues were found in fragments in many buildings of Khufu, and many buildings of Khufu are lost. Everything known about Khufu comes from the inscription in his necropolis at Giza and later documents. For example, Khufu is the main character noted in the Westcar papyrus in the 13th dynasty. Most documents that mention King Khufu were written by ancient Egyptian and Greek historians around 300 BC. Khufu's obituary is presented there in conflicting ways. While the king enjoyed a long-lasting cultural heritage preservation during the period of the Old Kingdom and the New Kingdom, the ancient historians Manethos, Diodorus, and Herodotus hand down very negative depictions of Khufu's character. That's you know what that sounds like. Now those characters I mentioned, Herodotus and Manethos, and these people, these are like the Herodotus. These are like Greeks and Romans. Anyway, Caucasians. That sounds just like how they would depict the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when, you know, talking about his life and his history and, you know, coming to power as the head of the Nation of Islam. They would have all kinds of negative things to say about it. So it goes like back in the ancient world. So obviously when the white man got something negative to say about you as a leader, obviously you must be doing something right. When he got something positive to say, you know, he's trying to put you in icon status. Usually those are the icons. As I call them, the icons, like Malcolm X. Malcolm X is the icon being an icon. He's an icon. Why? Because the so-called white man puts him up on a pedestal. You can't trust nothing, no so-called black person who the white man puts up on a pedestal. Can't trust them. They never put down Elijah Muhammad up on the pedestal. They always had negative things to say about him. So, you got a lot of icons out here that they pushing as icons in the minds of these so-called black people. Martin Luther King was an icon. You know, there's some people who basically catered to the mindset of the so-called white man, to the beast. And it's the same back then. That's why they had so much negative pride to say about him. Hands down, a very negative depiction of Khufu's character. Thanks to the documents and the obscure and the critical pictures of Khufu, personality persists. Let me see. Khufu's name was dedicated to the earth deity Khnum, which might point out the increase in Khnum's popularity and religious importance. In fact, several royal religious titles introduced at the time may point to the Egyptian pharaohs sought to accentuate their divine origins and statues by dedicating their official cartouche names to certain deities. Khufu may have viewed himself as a divine creator, a role already given to him by Khnum as a divine creator. Is that not the same way as they're saying the black man is God? Right? He saw himself as a divine creator. That's again another way of saying the so-called black man, for lack of a better word, because that's the terminology we understood in the 20th century, and it's still going into the 20th century. Again, that's nothing but saying the black man sees himself as God. See how all that stuff, comes from the past into the present, right? Let me see. A role that already was given to Khnum, the god of earth creation and growth. As a consequence, the king connected Khnum's name to his own. Khufu's full name is Khnum Khufu. Khnum Khufu means Khnum protect me. All right. The pharaoh officially used two versions of the birth name, Khnum Khuf and Khufu. The first complete version clearly exhibits Khufu's religious loyalty to Khnum. The second, shorter version does not. Unknown why the king would use a shortened name version, since it hides the name of Khnum and the king's name in connection to this god. It might be possible, though, that the shortened name wasn't meant to be connected to any god at all. Khufu is well known under his Hellenized name as Cheops or Cheops. The Hellenized name, the white name, in other words, your government name, your white name. And less well known, used under another Hellenized name, is Sufis. Now, you see how the white man gets a hold of names and he want to change them. Why can't you just leave his name Khnum? They had to translate it over into their language and basically mess up his name, right? And then also the reason they do stuff like this is so that they can create Caucasian versions of and cause confusion to the actual existence of these ancient pharaohs and whatnot. Because when you start seeing Greek and Roman names attached to them, you start thinking these are Greco-Roman rulers and things like that. And you don't look back further enough to see that these actually are ancient Kemetic rulers and these are Kemetic names. So a rare version of the name Khufu used by Josephus is Sophie. See, Arab historians who wrote mystic stories about Khufu and the Giza pyramids called him Surig, or Sohuk. Khufu's origins. The royal family of Khufu was quite large. Again, the royal family of Khufu was quite large. Did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have a very large family? Now, he came from a very large family, right? He fathered a lot of children, and he came from, being one of many siblings amongst his family. He was 7 out of, I think, 13 children. It is uncertain if Khufu was actually a biological son of Senefu. The mainstream Egyptology believes Senefu was Khufu's father, but only because it was handed down by later historians that the eldest son was selected descendants of to inherit the throne. In 1925, the tomb queen Heptaris 7000 was found east of Khufu's pyramid. It contained many precious grave goods, and several inscriptions give her title as Mutnetsut, meaning mother of a king. Together with the name King Senufu, therefore it seemed clear at first that Hepteris was the wife of Senufu. They were Khufu's parents. More recently, however, some have doubted this theory. All right. This is basically the rest of this is the family tree stuff, and they don't go much into his rulership because, like I tell you before, a lot of these people, they can only or let's say the length of his reign. It is unclear to see how long Khufu ruled over Egypt, because historically later documents contradict each other. Contemporary sources are scarce. The royal canon of Turin from the 19th dynasty, however, gives 23 years rulership to Khufu. The ancient historian Herodotus, ancient historian Menethos, and 63 years in reign. These figures are considered exaggerations and misinterpretations. All right. I'm not going to give a big history lesson on Khufu, but my point in that is, if you look at all of the people that came into power, the rulers and whatnot, there's more things that connect, that are very what's the word I want to say? That's very connected with Honorable Elijah Muhammad's life from this Pharaoh Khufu. Like I said, looks don't lie. There's no, again, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, nobody's going to dispute the fact he was an unusual looking man. Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a very unusual looking man for a so-called black man. Very unusual looking. You wasn't finding so-called black men that look like this. If you look at Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the so-called black people of that time, you can look and tell he got a netherworld look to him. What do I mean by netherworld look? He's like he came from someplace else. That's basically what I mean by that. You can tell he looked like he come from someplace else. And rulers or leaders in organizations and movements, they always look like they come from someplace else. They always look like somebody took them and stuck them in that place. You understand? They always look like somebody took them and stuck them in that place. And that's how, if you look at a lot of the pictures of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad around in the Nation of Islam, you'll see it looks the same way. It looks like somebody just photoshopped him into a lot of these pictures. Dr. York used to be the same way. When I used to see him, standing amongst the people and talking, it didn't even look like he went along with the people that he was leading. You see? He looked like a more advanced. You could tell he was more advanced than those he was leading. Same thing with Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was more advanced in his thinking and even in his looks, because your looks usually denote a certain thing about your way of thinking. Like for example, if you see somebody who got this Cro-Magnon primitive look to them, you could pretty much tell that these people, their thoughts go along with their look. I'm not saying that's all the time, because you got some people who look pretty, out there, futuristic, and they simple-minded. But for the most part, you'll see, like, when you notice somebody got a certain simple-minded look to them, they got a certain, caveman look to them. You don't got black cavemen, white cavemen. You can basically tell these people are simple-minded when you talk to them. They might surprise you, might have a little bit of wisdom and whatnot, but 9 times out of 10, they simple-minded. You know what you're looking at when you're talking to them. You see? But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you could look at his face and tell he was a man of wisdom. You could look in his face and look in his eyes and tell he was a man of wisdom. A man of power. Same thing with that Pharaoh Khufu, even looking at the statue. So that translates very much so in the modern day form. Again, I always said a lot of the Nation of Islam teaching, matter of fact, the mass majority is nothing but Freemasonry. And what is Freemasonry but copyings of things from ancient Egypt, stories and accounts and certain doctrines from ancient Egypt, or ancient Kemet. Right? The whole thing about the black man being God, it just shows you the connection between how they thought of themselves as divine creators going back then. So again, that's the same thing as saying the so-called black man is God. They saw themselves as gods or lords or rulers or those who are who are the what I want to say, the inheritors of earth, the inheritors of kingdoms and empires. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was basically saying the same thing. This is how you know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wasn't teaching Islam, because Islam teaches of a spook god named Allah who lives in the sky somewhere and this, that, and the third. Basically, Catholicism. Like I told you before, Islam is nothing but Catholicism. So the Nation of Islam needs to stop saying they're teaching Islam and just come out and just say it straight up and just say they're teaching Freemasonry, because that's really what they're teaching. They're not teaching no Islam. Islam is nothing but Catholic religion. That's it. That's nothing but an Arab version of the Catholic religion. You could, and like I said, Freemasonry is nothing but, ancient Egypt. That's all Freemasonry is. It's nothing but ancient Egypt. In the ancient world, they had the top Luciferians in the ancient world. They had Luciferians back then. That's not nothing new. The so-called Illuminati, the elites that are doing the Luciferianism, that's nothing new. They had Luciferians back then. And the Luciferians back then, the light bearers, was your priest of Amen. They were your higher priest of Amen, and those ones who held certain secrets of the Amen being, they became like Luciferians. Because all that word Lucifer means is those who are light bearers. It doesn't mean anything bad or good or anything else. It just means those who bear the light. Now, I'm not saying they used the word Luciferian back then, they used something else, but as you can see in a lot of their depictions on the wall, they were showing you light coming from the heads of the men, certain men, light coming from the sun to man, light coming from the sun to the woman, and whatnot. They were showing you the connection between the light, meaning from the sun, and it going into the minds of the people. So again, they were showing you the connection between that light that cuts on in your head, the brightness, and certain people who had certain knowledge versus those who didn't. So they just represent the highest order of light or enlightenment on earth. That's what your illuminaries represent. And you had that going back to ancient Egypt. Right? This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a Freemason. He was a Freemason. A lot of so-called black men, bronze men, get into Freemasonry because it reminds them, like as they get into it, it reminds them, or it's familiar to them because it has remnants of ancient Egypt on it. It has remnants of the ancient world. You see, that's why they get involved. They don't get involved because it's some white men and whatnot. They get involved with it as time goes on. They recognize certain symbols, certain things are melded into their subconscious, like the pyramids, the serpent, and certain things that they learn comes from the ancient world, from the Kemet. Comes from the ancient world. That's why they join into the Freemasonry, right? But then I told you, as time goes on and they stay, they find out that the true God of the true God of this world and the true God of Freemasonry is Lucifer. Is Lucifer, and the setup for that higher state of Luciferianism again is the elite or the Illuminati or the elitists or the elites. The elite, the elite. Because the elite is another way of saying the elites. That's another way of saying the elites. Like a lot of you Israelites, you want to be the light of the world. That's why you call Israelites. That's why the elites are called elites or elites. They want to be the lights of the world, the light bearers. This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had suns, moons, and stars on his crowns, which represented what? Light. All that represented light. The sun, the moon, and the star. Right? And you look back in the ancient world, they had the same thing. They had the sun, the moons, and the stars, and they had the sun and everything because, again, those were representing illumination, light. And what does light represent? Light represents knowledge, the ability to see, the ability to have clarity. To see, because, again, this goes along with what we say as mentalists. We say that there's always more to see. There is always more to see. There's always more to see, meaning there are more dimensions to see to the picture, and the picture always extends. That's what we say as mentalists, and we're constantly looking at the bigger picture, constantly, because in the bigger picture is the answers to all life, is the answers to eternal life. We as mentalists bear witness that there's always a bigger picture that we are trying to see, the clarity in the picture. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad tried to instill this in the minds of the Muslims, but as I said before, he was doing early, like primitive intellect. He was doing Islam, the Nation of Islam was teaching primitive intellect because the transmission was going through. And like I said, a lot of us, those who are leaders, we're always going to present knowledge directly from Amen because we come from Amen. We're always going to present it, even though they might not let them present it on a certain level. Certain levels will be higher than others. But the whole thing was to give us illumination, give us true light. You understand? That's what that was meant to be. So, Elijah Muhammad was trying, that's why he said he knew that he was dealing with a bunch of people who were mentally dead. Even his own followers were mentally dead. They didn't understand where he was coming from, and they didn't see the bigger picture. So he had to work with what he had, which was Islam, which is really a degree within Freemasonry, a low-level degree in Freemasonry. So they had to work with what they had. But he always had that knowledge of Amen in his mind from the last time he was here at the Pharaoh Khufu. He had that knowledge in his head. Because again, like I told you before, leaders are born, they are not made. You cannot make a person a leader. I'm going to say it again, leaders are born, not made. So if you have a leader, somebody who just steps into the role and just start running stuff, that person did that before. Fard Muhammad didn't pick Elijah Muhammad. I kept telling y'all that. Amen picked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he just used Fard to do it. I told you before, Fard was the messenger, and Elijah was God in person or the Lord in person. You see, Fard was the messenger. He carried the message to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that the so-called black man was God. That's nothing but Amen using him to carry the message to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to spread to the other so-called black men and black women out there about who we are. Because we was coming out of that state of slavery, so we forgot who we was. So we needed that knowledge of Amen in our minds again. We needed that knowledge of who we were in our mind again, that we are the Amen, and that we are connected to the ancient world, we are connected to the future world, we are connected to existence and eternal life. We are connected to that. So we needed that. We needed that. And Fard was just a messenger for that. That's it. But a lot of you people got stuck in the Islam part of it. You people in the Nation of Islam got caught up in the Islamic part of it. You got caught up in worshiping the image of Fard when you had God in person with you. You had the Lord in person with you. The personification of the Lord Amen with you in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was once Khufu in the ancient world. You can't deny that. Because again, it's no coincidence because I said before, you don't see men that look like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, just like you didn't see men who looked like ancient Khufu back then. You didn't see men who looked like that. His features and how he wore his crown on his head was very distinctive. Very distinctive. Even in the ancient world, I was a pharaoh. I remember who I was. I already know who I was in the ancient world. I already know who I was. And I still look the same. You understand? Still look the same. See, that soul, that mind, and that body will always be projected back and forth between the higher dimensions and lower dimensions. It will always come. Those images will always come, and those personifications will always come where they are needed. See, the Pharaoh Khufu, who was reborn as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was needed in that time to lead our people into the future. It was needed. He was needed. So when Amen feels as though, or Amen knows that the presence of one of their assets, and I'm going to say it just like that, when Amen knows that the presence of one of their assets is needed somewhere in the lower dimensions or the lesser dimensions, when Amen knows that that is needed, Amen will project those people there, or those personifications there. Amen will project them there, and that's what happened with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was projected, the Pharaoh Khufu was projected into America as a little brown man or a little bronze man named Elijah Muhammad or Elijah Poole. He was projected here. And like I said, how you know that is because you could see that he didn't look like everybody else around him. That's how you know Amun sent him. Amun sent him. It was, again, I'm going to tell you, people in the Nation of Islam, it wasn't about Fard. Y'all keep making it about Fard. Fard came 3.5 years and less. That's what a messenger does. A messenger comes, drops off a message, and leaves. That's what Fard did. So he would be the messenger. Elijah Muhammad stayed with y'all for 40 years and went through hell. You understand? So he proved himself to be a God in the flesh, a Lord, a supreme being. To have to go through all that. Fard couldn't have dealt with this. Obviously, Fard couldn't have dealt with this. Yeah, he's supposed to be Allah. Y'all call him Allah, but he couldn't have dealt with this. He ran. I'm going to just feel like that. He ran. Y'all can get mad all you want to, you people in the Nation of Islam listening to this. Fard ran. He took off. He was hiding there. You supposed to be Allah. You hiding under different aliases, and you doing your hair different. You looking like a white boy. You looking like an Arab. Looking like whatever they say you was. And you hiding. You going back for hiding between on the run. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was out there. He stood out here. You understand? He stood up. He was brave. That was a man. He didn't run. You understand? He could have ran off and never taught Islam again. He could have just went off and ran off and left his wife and children, never taught Islam again. But he stayed and put up with stuff. As soon as he made a big piece of money, a big huge fortune, which he had already, he could have took the money and just left. Took a young woman, took the money and left, went someplace else. He didn't do that. He stayed. But yet y'all don't honor him. You don't honor him. You honor somebody who snuck around and gave you a bunch of half-ass teachers and ran off. You understand? That you honor him. See, pharaohs in the ancient world, they stayed on their thrones, man, no matter whether they was liked or not. That's how you know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is cut from that cloth. The pharaohs stayed, man. They stayed until they died, or they just, like I said, they stayed until they pretty much died. They didn't care about public opinion. They didn't care about who didn't like them. I just told you, these Caucasians back then didn't like the Pharaoh Khufu. They didn't like him the same way these Caucasians back in the 50s and the 40s and 60s, they didn't like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You see? Same thing all over again. This ain't nothing but a rerun, man. This ain't nothing but a rerun. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he'll be back in the future. Down the line, he'll be back as somebody else. I'll be back. We'll all be back. Those who are meant to be back, those who will be utilized. You understand that? Those will be regenerated again. We got the genetic material, the mind, the body, the soul. All that's going to come regenerated forward again. That's going to be regenerated. You see? Now, people might be listening to this and say, "Oh, that sounds crazy." What you saying about how you trying to link the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to an ancient pharaoh? Well, how is the Nation of Islam and Minister Farrakhan able to say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on a spaceship somewhere? Okay, if Minister Farrakhan believes that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was on a spaceship somewhere, obviously, if he's on a spaceship, he's being housed there or stored there for a reason. What's the reason he's being stored there? So he can eventually come back in the future. Right? Because energy cannot be destroyed. And you are energy, you are pure. We are the purest form of energy, soul energy. Solar energy is the purest form of energy, which I'm going to do a broadcast on, is the purest form of power and energy, solar energy. And that's walking around within every bronze man and bronze woman. Even if it's on a low level, it's in every bronze man and every woman. Solar energy is the purest energy. So that solar energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be projected back and forth. You see? So that energy of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad will be projected, was going to come back. You know, you toss it out, you know, and he'll go into upper dimensions, be recharged, regenerated, and he'll come back in the state of a fourth dimension or even a higher dimension because he's going to be recharged. He's not going to have the same memory, but the characteristics will be there. You see, unlike the spiritual people who are locked in the three-dimensional world, who basically are hanging on in the three-dimensional world, looking for bodies to inhabit in the three-dimensional world, a.k.a. your ghosts, your spirits, your spooks, your demons, your demonically possessed. This is what the spiritual beings do in the three-dimensional world. They look to hang around the three-dimensional world looking for bodies to inhabit. But we as soul beings, we don't do that. We just regenerate. We just regenerate in future time and later time when we are needed. We are constantly being upgraded. Those who are of the elect, we are being upgraded. We are constantly being upgraded. And then you got those who are being reprocessed or regenerated, but they're going to still be at the same level. See, everybody's not going to be regenerated at a higher level. Certain people are going to be regenerated at a certain place that is just the regular place. You see? But a lot of the people that was following the messenger, that's why he said, you know, he said, at the end of all this, he said, my true followers are going to be able to fit inside of a taxi cab. Now, he had hundreds of thousands of followers following him now. Why would he say that? He said that because, again, he knew that most of them were mentally dead. The mass majority, they were seeking that light or that illumination from him. They were seeking it, but the mass majority were mentally dead. That's why when he passed on, instead of these people moving toward the next level, you know, they went and followed Wallace Muhammad, his demonic ass son. They went and followed these old nations of Islam because, again, the Nation of Islam was supposed to be a bright organization. It was supposed to be a bright movement, not a black movement. It was supposed to be a bright movement, the first bright movement. But being that, you know, and I say the first black movement is because it was supposed to be a movement of intelligent people in that organization, both men and women. It's supposed to be a movement of intelligent, forward-thinking people. And for the most part, that's what they tried to present, but what got in the way of that was Islam. Islam ultimately got in the way of that. Why? Because you had a whole bunch of backwoods Arabs over there in these countries still kissing rocks and praying to the east and doing all kind of primitive things. And it did not give rise to the extended version of who you are as a bright man and bright woman. We kept trying to, as you know, the so-called black people back then kept trying to fit into Islam, and that was the problem. Islam was holding our people back, but that's all the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and them had at that time. He had to work with what he had and prepare the people for the future. You see? The only thing Nation of Islam you got now, you know, this was a movement that was carried by a bright man, but is now being held up by black men, men in darkness. It's being held up by black men, not bright men. But see, that's all prophecy because, again, the same thing happened with Dr. Malachi Z. York because he was an ancient pharaoh he was pharaoh in the ancient world as well. Right? Because, like I said, leaders are regenerated. You're always going to need a good leader when you're trying to lead the people into the future and raise them on another level. So you produce or project a leader there, and that's all Amen did with Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He brought the regenerated version of Khufu back into the three-dimensional realm to start the evolution of our people into the bronze race, into the bright race. And that's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did. He started the evolution. Even though a lot of his people tried to turn it into a revolution where they went back into Islam under the so-called Arabs, the white Arabs, the pale Arabs. They went right back up under them. So they took his evolutionary work and basically took it back, spiraled it back into a circle because we was not supposed to, you know, go up under no Arabs. Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not want for you to go up under no Arabs or follow Sunni Islam. In fact, y'all was supposed to be on a major way out of Islam. Islam was only there for it to be, you know, as a temporary thing. But a lot of you took it to be a lifelong thing. A lot of you stay in this thing and then y'all die in it. You see? But as I'm saying right now, the Republic of MENTELLECT, you know, we as mentalists, we are the fulfillment of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was talking about. We are the fulfillment of that as mentalists. We are the fulfillment of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was talking about people who are bright ones, the ones who are truly of the Creator, of the Most High, the Lord. We are the fulfillment of that as mentalists. Because your mind has to be right in order for you to be in alignment with the Most High, with the most continuous, with Amen. Your mind has to be right. That's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad kept saying that black people are mentally dead. What did he mean by that? He meant that these people were not in alignment with the Most High, with the Creator. They were not in alignment with their higher self, their continuous self. They were not in alignment. That's why they were mentally dead within the three-dimensional world, or really the two-dimensional world. They were really dead. And this is what, and these people were trying to connect to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They were trying, but it was hard for them because he was so much up on a higher level of ultra-standing. He was on such a higher pedestal from the last time he was here. He still had that ultra-standing from the last time he was here. It was in the core of who he was as a leader. You see? It was in the core of who he was as a leader. Like they'll say, oh, he wasn't the most well-spoken man, and, he wasn't this, that, and the third. And, however, he was a leader for 40 years. You don't get to be a leader being a stupid man. You don't get to be a leader of anything being a stupid man for 40 years. He was a leader for a reason, because Amen chose him. Pharaoh didn't choose him. Amen chose him and used Pharaoh to bring him up. You see, that was already in the core essence of who he was. Right, who he was and who he is, that was in the core essence of who he was. That's why he became a leader, because you have plenty of other people and whatnot Pharaoh could have chose. But again, it showed the core of who he was in the ancient world, that he was meant to come up and lead. This is what Amen wanted. This is what Amen wanted. And like I said, we are the fulfillment of that, because we are a people as the found Amen race within the of the Republic of Mentellect, of the planet Amen, the found Amen race. We are not mentally dead. We're not mentally dead. We done moved on out of the second dimension and into the third dimension. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to deal with a bunch of two-dimensional Negroes. He was in the third dimension already. His mind was already set in the third dimension to be a leader of people, of a people. You see, because in the ancient world, he, as Pharaoh Khufu, he was leading people back then. So that was already locked in his mind. Certain things get locked in your mind. Certain experiences of who you are get locked in your mind from the ancient world. And he remembered from this past that he was a leader in the present. He remembered that. And he would be that leader in the future. And he remembered that. That's why when they came to him and made him a leader, he was like, I can't do this. I can't be the leader. I can't do this. Get somebody else. No. He didn't punk out, because he knew it was his destiny to lead. He knew it was his destiny to be a leader and to have to undergo the things that a leader would have to undergo, because being a leader, whether you know it or not, is hell. Being a leader is hell. I can speak from experience and tell you that being a leader of anything is hell. It's not a nice job. You may think it is, but it's not. Because you got people doubting you every 5 minutes, who not trusting you. You got your own people who are whispering behind your back. You got the so-called white man you got to deal with. You got the ignorant black people you got to deal with. You got the ignorant humans you got to deal with. You got a lot of hell. You got a lot of hell you got to deal with as a leader. You got your family members, like the messenger had his own family members jealous of him. They didn't have favorable things to say about him. You understand that? People that smiled in his face and then turn around and stab him in the back, but that's what leaders go through. That's what leaders go through. Not a good job. It's not a nice job. It all look good. You understand? But like I said, I guarantee you, the people who look up to and envy that job and whatnot, you wouldn't want it. You wouldn't want that job for like a year or 2 years or whatnot, because a lot of decisions have to be made. That's hell. The person who got it the worst is a bronze leader. That's the person who got it the worst. See, the white man, see him as a leader, he don't got it bad as the bronze leader, because white people will tend to respect the white man, and black people will respect the white man. They will respect him. You see? They will respect the white man. They will respect the so-called black race will respect the white leader, and the white race will respect him, and everybody else. When it comes to the bronze leader, the bronze man, black people going to disrespect him, white people going to try and disrespect him, and like I said, but he got to go through all that. He got to go through all that. His own people going to disrespect him on some level. But he got to go through. He got to withstand all that. He got to withstand, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad withstood it all. He withstood it all. It's amazing that he made it to the age he made it to with all the hell he had to put up with. You understand? All the hell he had to put up with. Malcolm X didn't have to put up with nothing. Not for real. Except for stuff that he wanted to put up with, stuff that he put himself in. But that's another account. You know? Leaders are born. They are not made. Leaders are born, not made. Because again, it takes intelligence. Again, like I said, these are things that you had to have rooted inside of you from the get-go. You have to have these things rooted inside of you. They have to be locked in. How do they get locked in if you didn't do this before? This is not no mystery. This ain't no spookism. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad did this before. Obviously, in order for him to step into that position and run the Nation of Islam like he did, he did a stellar job, an excellent job of being a leader of the Nation of Islam and running that. Like I said, he ran the hell out of the Nation of Islam for 40 years. He put it down so hard that Minister Pharaoh, Silas Muhammad, Royal Muhammad, and all the Muslim Muhammads who started up their own little nations of Islam was able to feed off of what he put down for 40 years. Because that's the only reason why Minister Farrakhan and all these other people were able to start up nations of Islam off of what Elijah Muhammad did. Yet they don't really honor the man. They trying to make names for themselves. They was able to do what they're able to do what they do today, making livings off of the Nation of Islam brand, making livings off of those flags, making livings off of Final Call, Muhammad Speaks, and everything else because of the work he put down, not because of no work Fard Muhammad put down. Because you don't even know what Fard Muhammad. And we're back. The Pharaoh, I'm real with. They were both free nations. MENKARAYZZ. Fard was a free nation. Life was a free nation world. And now in the modern day world, I am NUBEN MENKARAYZZ. I didn't know what made me get that name. That's why I'm standing up because of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came out of nowhere. But obviously, y'all know nothing about it. Obviously, it's stuck in my mind. But yet you put his past and and again, that represents the mind of the two-dimensional black man and black woman. The two-dimensional. That's who I was in the ancient world. I know in the mind of the two-dimensional nigga, the white man was always memories of God, the most time, or Allah. Y'all always gonna make a white generation or some more or somebody forward. Like you always gonna put on a higher picture. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went forward as well. He had a very good understanding of that. You know, and the, we'll be right back. More on this and whatnot. A lot more. I'm going to be in Restoration Islam tomorrow from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Muslim Girls Training at one time had headpieces on. They looked like the Crown Public Intellect, Supermen, Superwomen, King Pharaohs, and whatnot. They had tall headpieces on. They didn't have the, at one point, that was one of the things that what I call a desert headscarf. They didn't have that. Honorable Elijah Muhammad had them in head crowns like royalty. And that's how they were supposed to be looking. That's what's supposed to stood you apart from the regular Muslims. However, the problem was, I guess in the Nation of Islam over time, they didn't want to be, because if you notice in the Freemasonry and Eastern Stars, which is like I said, again, where the Nation of Islam comes out of Freemasonry and the Eastern Star, they didn't want to be linked directly to Freemasonry. They want to move more toward Islam. So if you notice, after the 60s, the women started more and more wearing the headscarf like the regular Arab women, and they took the crowns off their heads, which was incorrect. They weren't supposed to do that. They were supposed to keep the crowns on their heads, like the ancient Queen Pharaohs and whatnot. And we're going to reestablish that in the Republican Mentellect. The mentalist women are going to wear head crowns, but we're going to put our own spin on it. It's going to look hot. The mentalist women are going to have head crowns with their uniforms, and the mentalist men are going to have, head coverings as well with their uniforms. It's going to look good, like keeping in alignment with the fact that we are royal people. We are those royal people. We're going to reestablish that. Whereas the Nation of Islam dropped off, because that's what happens when you follow a bunch of Arabs. When you follow a bunch of desert Arabs and you follow their pagan religion, which is Islam, which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't intend for you to all to stay in, obviously. Because again, if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was truly a Muslim and wanted you to stay within Islam, he would have adopted a lot of Islamic practices a lot earlier. He would have adopted him. He would have stopped saying, but we're going to follow this. He stood around for 40 years teaching Islam a certain way from the Freemasonic standpoint, which is what this clown Wallace Muhammad never said that, my father was teaching Islam. He didn't say that his father was teaching Islam from a Freemasonic perspective. No, he's going to just say, it was just bootleg and it was just a bunch of put together stuff. And I'm like, well, what the hell you think regular Islam is? And a bunch of bootleg put together jacking off of the damn Catholic Church. That's all the regular Islam is. That's all Orthodox Islam is. It's nothing but a rip-off of Roman Catholicism. That's all it is. But this is what y'all wanted to be a part of. A lot of you who went with Wallace Muhammad after the Nation of Islam split. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the whole thing of him taking the women as wives, the young women as wives and whatnot, because that's what a lot of you people get down on that messenger for taking young women and laying with them and putting babies in them. That goes back to the ancient world. That goes back to ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet. That's what the pharaohs did back then. They took young women and they seeded them with children for the future generations. That's what they did that for. It wasn't so much because he wanted some sex from some young girls. No, he was trying to make babies with younger women because most of his kids wasn't worth a damn. The ones he had with Clara wasn't worth a damn. And his ancient mind and in his future mind, he was like, he just went and did what was programmed in him by the Amen Ben to do, to take young women and seed life with them, lay with them and take them as wives and put babies in them. He wasn't laying with them just for sex, because if that was the case, he could have had them get abortions and all kind of other stuff if it was just about sex, or he could have wore a condom. He was going up in those women to make babies with them, like the pharaohs did. They had hella children. They had a whole bunch of children, the pharaohs and whatnot, because they wanted to guarantee future rulership. And they wanted their bloodline and seed to still be moving forward when they left the planet. That's what the whole point of that was. So he didn't do nothing wrong. I'm saying that. But you people in the Nation of Islam who still sitting up here acting all like you ashamed that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad took young women as wives, y'all a bunch of goddamn hypocrites, man. Y'all hypocrites. And Malcolm X was a hypocrite too, because he went over to Saudi Arabia and saw them Arabs. Them Arabs had concubines, wives, and they used the concubines and wives really for sex. They don't really have them for children. They have them for sex. Right? And then he's going to say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was an immoral man for having young women that he was making babies with. Well, what the hell you do with young women but make babies with them? What do you do with them? Look at him. He didn't do nothing wrong. They talk about how these in your so-called Bible and whatnot, that these angels, as they call them, came down and seen all the women that they wanted. They took as many women as they wanted. They partook of the women. I forget what the verse that is. They came down and they saw all the women that were fair, and they took as many women as they wanted. Or children. To lay with them and make children with them. They didn't do nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? To breed star children, exactly. To breed star children. That's what you're supposed to do. But I guess they would have been okay if they would have had a bunch of little boyfriends and whatnot, and they'd been out in the world, and they would have been getting knocked up by their little boyfriends and producing little nigglets. That's okay. That's okay that they have little boyfriends who they age, they get knocked up and producing little nigglets. You understand? Yeah, exactly. Breeding a bunch of lunar children, a bunch of little nigglets. Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to breed solar children, solar seeds, right? And some of his children from those breedings, those couplings, came out good. It's a crapshoot, depending on who the woman is. But that's what you got to look at it for and whatnot. This is for the future generations, right? This is for the future generations. And they wanted to make it like the messenger did something. He was doing something nasty. You understand? That's only in the minds of nasty people who want to make things like that nasty. We adults here. You grown up adults. You know what that's for. And, as time went on, and, the teaching, they made sure, a messenger made sure, because he could have came and pulled a moral science thing He could have came and pulled a more Islamic thing, could have made the Muslims dress a certain way. He made sure that they were on par with being modern day Muslims, right? And, you know, being clean shaven and dressed like bankers, businessmen, because again, that was considered to be the royalty of today. The royalty of the day, the look of royalty of the day is clean shaven business suit. And it's still that way today. That is an international look. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, and just like all pharaohs, they mesh into the time frame they're in, and they take on the image of what's popular at the time. If it's popular at the time to wear suits and ties and whatnot and be clean shaven, and that's what he did. That was the symbol of success, just like it is now. That's why I have my people looking the same way. We wearing suits, 3-piece suits and long ties. We ain't wearing no bow ties. We dressing like businessmen and businesswomen. Men clean shaven, no facial hair, low haircuts, no long hair, no dreads, no earrings, no big poopy-doo afro. Nah, we ain't doing that. We dressing like business people. Because Amen is the first and the supreme businessman. Amen is the first and supreme businessman. That's why he put elements here on the earth to be traded and going back and forth from the start. A monetary situation here. It was always like that. We started that, and the white man followed us. You understand that? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was of the serpentine bloodline. He was serpentine. That's why if you looked at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his looks could shift from time to time. That's a serpentine trait. Right? That's a serpentine trait. I have the flat back head. That's a serpentine trait. That's a reptilian trait. I got the flat back head. I don't have the back. That's a little serpentine. That's why he'll look Asian at certain times, and then he'll look like I say, he'll look like a so-called bronze man. He'll look kind of Asian a little bit, and he'll look like an alien at times, because that's the serpentine bloodline going through. We change. You see? That's all part of that serpentine bloodline. And the ancient pharaohs back then, they were part of the serpentine bloodline too, going all the way back into. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he appeared also in Mesoamerica. He appeared in Mesoamerica along with me. We all appeared in Mesoamerica as the Olmecs. We were there. I seen a person that I could tell was Muhammad Ali back then. I seen a Olmec who definitely had to be Muhammad Ali back then. Seen an Olmec that looked like Baby from Cash Money. I put that up there one time. Olmec looked straight like Baby from Cash Money. So these are all just regenerations. That's all. They're all regenerations. Same people coming forward over and over and over again. Same regenerations. You see, just the same regenerations. That's what's supposed to, that's what, we are constantly coming forward, because again, our energy's not going anywhere. It's not being destroyed because it was never created. It was always here. So what are we going to do but come forward in different dimensions? What are we going to do but come forward? What are we going to do but regenerate? That's why I tell you, I don't get locked up in these time frames. Don't get caught up in these emotions. Don't get caught up in none of this stuff and whatnot, because again, it stops us from evolving. Getting caught up in these 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional realms and going back and forth with the white man about black and white and all this other nonsense. That's like a blink in time, man. That's like just literally a blink in time that you make a whole lifetime. You make that a whole part of your life, and you let it take up space in your mind and in your brain. You let this back and forth, this circular non-movement, a non-motion take up space in your mind. And see, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wasn't doing that. And that's what a lot of black people didn't like. A lot of niggas didn't like that, especially Malcolm X. Why I say that? Because when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad kept trying to impress upon him that he shouldn't have said the thing about Kennedy, because he know that Kennedy, when he said the thing about Kennedy, Malcolm X, about the chickens coming home to roost, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad sat him down because of that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad understood that being a leader in the past, it's good to have something called diplomacy. When you are a leader, when you are a born leader, when you've led people in the past, you understand, and you learn diplomacy. You see, because each time you're coming forward as a leader or as an important person, you have to learn from what you did in the last time you was here. You have to learn that lesson. Now, that probably was a lesson he learned in his last time here as the Pharaoh Khufu about diplomacy, learning how to not say certain things and to say certain things at certain times. That's something that has to be fine-tuned, and that's something that you have to get over time as a leader. And if you don't do it in the first life, you do it in the second life coming forward. You're going to keep doing it as you keep coming forward. So when he tried to explain to Malcolm X, don't say that, these people love Kennedy, this will be lodged in their mind and whatnot. We're trying to move forward. He want to get caught up in the civil rights garbage. He want to get caught up in, the nation Islam made deals with the Ku Klux Klan so that they can have their farmland going and don't none of the Muslim farmers get bothered. He was, Elijah Muhammad was making deals like that because he was thinking about the future. See, all leaders who have been here more than once, they are all programmed to think about the future. And again, that's the mark of a great leader. In the past and the present and going forward continuously into the future is that they're constantly focused on the future. They're not getting caught up in the things of now. That's why Elijah Muhammad wanted to get away from the whole, black and white thing, and he just wanted to focus on Islam and the Muslims and making the community and building, and focusing on something for our people and trying to focus on the future. But people like your Malcolm X and all of them didn't understand that. They wanted to get involved in these setup little setup causes like the civil rights movement and all this other nonsense, which is orchestrated by the so-called white men, the Jews. Now the Elijah Muhammad, I ain't doing that. We doing our own thing. We focusing on the nation. We building, and you can see now how that has hurt the Nation of Islam, because even Minister Farrakhan, instead of talking about building up the Nation of Islam, he'd rather talk about Nipsey Hussle. Instead of focusing on the Nation of Islam or building up the Nation of Islam or, re-strengthening the Nation of Islam, he'd rather focus on go and run around and run to LA and give a speech on Nipsey Hussle, somebody you don't even know. How the hell are you talking about Nipsey Hussle? You don't even know who that is. At one point, he called him Nipsey Russell, the entertainer who's been dead I don't know how long. Called him Nipsey Russell. They made Minister Farrakhan look like a damn fool up there. They shouldn't have had him going up there speaking about no Nipsey Hussle. They should have had one of the younger people in the Nation of Islam doing that. Man, 80 years old, what the hell he know about a Nipsey Hussle? But that's the madness that has taken place since Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been gone. They have went into a state of darkness. All these people that supposedly followers of the man, because they didn't understand where he came from. They think he just came from a so-called black man and black woman. You understand? They thinking he just came from a so-called black man and black woman. They don't understand where he really came from, that he is directly from Amen. That the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was directly from Amen. You understand? They don't get that. They don't even understand what Amen is. And we're going to explain it, but still only the elect are going to know who Amen is. Only the elect. Only the elect are going to understand who and what Amen really is. So, another break, and we are back. I'm going to be at Restoration Plaza tomorrow, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Republic of MENTELLECT, Superman, Superwoman project. Monthly project that we do every month, the end of the month in Brooklyn, New York City. I'm also going to be in South Carolina on the 12th of May 12th. So listen out for that. I'll say the meeting place before I wrap this up. But tomorrow, 1368 Fulton Street, I'm going to be at the Restoration Plaza here in Brooklyn. The Republic of MENTELLECT, Superman, Superwoman project. Admission is free. We as mentalists are here to heal the minds of our people. We as mentalists are here to heal the minds of our people. We as mentalists are here to heal the minds of our people. The bronze race, right? The ones who are in a state of darkness. Mentalists are here to heal the minds of the world, basically, just by what we do. We don't have to go out here and, make a reach out for everybody. We are the mentalist outreach just by what we do every day and live in our lives as supreme minds, supreme thinkers. And again, this is the fulfillment of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even Dr. MENKARAYZZ York wanted, where they kept saying, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said our people are mentally dead. What did that mean? It meant that we were mentally disconnected from Amen, Most High, the Most Continuous. Dr. MENKARAYZZ York wrote the book, the Mind Book. So, again, the focus is on getting the mind in alignment with something higher, with the highest source, which is Amen, which is connected to us. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Definitely going to talk about us as the representation of Amen on earth. See, a lot of people, and that was the problem with black people, again, because the beast keeps up his programming, black people think that they are part of a state of darkness, and that darkness is supreme. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad lets you know that the light, the pure light, which is really supposed to be brightness, is where true supremacy is. The purest light. Right? They talk about triple stage of darkness, but the triple stage of darkness represents a three-dimensional or lower state of being. Triple state of darkness is not supremacy. That's not supremacy. That's inferiority. Triple stage of darkness is inferiority, Bob, because the triple stage of darkness came in the three-dimensional realm, the lesser realms. We want supreme brightness. We want supreme brightness. As mentalists, we want the supreme brightness. And we're going to teach our people MENTELLECT, which is supreme brightness, supreme intellect, supreme intelligence. We're going to teach our people that the mentalist men and mentalist women will lead the minds of a next generation. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad sparked that. And again, this is an ongoing spark that Amen sends through those men and those women. Because I tell you, it's not just the men, it's the women as well. A lot of the women who are stepping up, and even into this movement as the elect, you are important and powerful people. That means if you stepped up into this movement, into this mentalist movement, if you stepped up into the mentalist movement, into the Republic of MENTELLECT as a registered mentalist, then that means that you are somebody important in the future. That means that you are somebody important in the future because you align yourself with something such as this, a covenant or a community that is important and represents a big shift in the future. Just like the people who align themselves and join the Nation of Islam because they saw that they wanted to come out of the state of darkness because they recognized the light in this man, Elijah Muhammad, and the message that he was carrying directly from Amen. And again, it wasn't coming from no Allah. It wasn't coming from no Fard Muhammad. It was coming directly from Amen to them for that time. And again, a lot of it was programmed or stored in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he was here as Khufu. Again, I told you that once you are a leader, and no matter what time you are a leader in, those experiences are what made you a leader. The things that you learned, the position you were put in is stored in your mind. So when you are regenerated, when you do return, those instincts are used when you come into rulership or into power again. Those who were leaders in the past will be leaders in the future again. And again, everybody, there's no such thing as making a leader. You have to be born that. The beast can't make you a leader. So-called white man can't make you no leader. So again, a lot for you so-called politicians or you Negroes who are in charge in the system of the beast, you're not no real leaders, man. You're not real leaders. Amen has to make you a leader. Amen has to raise you up amongst the people. Amen has to do that. Man can't do that. So for all you puppets and Negroes who are supposedly important in the system of the beast, you ain't important, man. That's why they said that Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the most powerful black man. They said the most powerful black man in that time frame. Now, you had people like Martin Luther King, you had Malcolm X, you had all these people, even going back to boys and all the other people who was out here. You had, that would be so-called, but they called Honorable Elijah Muhammad the most powerful man of his time because, again, what did that denote? That the white man didn't give him his power. Amen gave Honorable Elijah Muhammad his power, and the Freemasons recognized that he was put in power by the Most High, by the Most Continuous. That's why they really never bothered Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They might say little stuff here and there, but they knew who he was. They knew that he was a notable from the past. He was royalty. They knew the messenger was royalty. They knew that he came from the past, that he was an ancient Pharaoh. They know that. You see? They knew who he was. That's why they didn't really bother him like that. You know, I mean, they might have said little stuff. They might not have put him out there or made him an icon and whatnot. Of course, they ain't gonna do that. But they also left him alone too. You understand that? Because one thing the beast understands and somewhat respects, if it is in alignment with Amen, is order. If our people are in alignment with Amen, and then that is a signal. That is a signal to the world that we are waking up, that we are coming in alignment to something greater. And they recognize that in the Nation of Islam back then, even with all the Negroes that was in the Nation of Islam. And I say that, you know, I say that purposely, the Negroes, because you had Negroes in the Nation of Islam, people who was too slow to stop being black. You had some Negroes, unfortunately, just like and you got Negroes running it today. But again, they still recognize who this man was. Right? They know who he was, and they left him alone. You know, they might have given him a little bit of hell in the beginning, just a little bit, put a little hell on him, you know, and sent him to jail for 4 years and whatnot for teaching the truth. But they see that the messenger was a no-limit man. He was one of these no-limit. He was a no-limit man directly from Amen. They seen that he was connected, because they know whenever certain powers or principalities pop up amongst our people, and they examine everything. That's how the white man, he examined everything. Once they see that, they like, yeah, it's more to this Negro than he ain't no regular Negro. You understand? They like, he ain't no regular Negro. He don't even look like a regular Negro. It's something with this guy. Let's leave this guy alone. We just keep surveillance on him and say little things and whatnot. Of course, we gotta do our job. We gotta be devils. We gotta slander his movement, you know, and all this stuff. But we'll practice a hands-off policy with this Muhammad guy, because he obviously is somebody from the ancient world. They believe in all that. They know about reincarnation and regeneration. They know it's reincarnation for them and regeneration for us. They know about that. They know about that. They know that certain leaders who was pharaohs in the past and leaders of the past are going to come back in the present and into the future. They know that already. You see? They know that. It's only when you Negroes who come up here trying to be so-called leaders and you getting caught up in the present-day stuff, you start getting caught up in this present-day garbage, trying to be all into race relations and reparations and all this other garbage. You know what I'm saying? Pan-Africanism and all this other crap, you know, and descending of slaves, ADOS, and all this other BS. That's when y'all get caught up in stuff. You see? We weren't supposed to get caught up in this nonsense. You know what I'm saying? We weren't supposed to get caught up in this. And I'm going to say this, you know, y'all realize Muhammad was so powerful. Why you think they gave the people in the Middle East gave the Malcolm X respect that he got? And offered, even after he left the Nation of Islam, why do you think they gave him the respect they got? That's because of who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was and who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made him. That ungrateful nigger, Malcolm X. I'm going to just say it like that, the ungrateful nigger, Malcolm X. That y'all love so much. If it wasn't for the messenger, Malcolm X would have been dead a long time ago. But see, when you are a powerful person, when you are a person of interest, like the messenger was, when people are associated with him, they become important. Right? The messenger could flex his muscle, man. He had muscle. He was a true leader. And again, anytime you could punk the entire Italian mafia like the messenger did with the Nation of Islam, he punked the whole Italian mafia. People gonna tell you that the reason why Muhammad Ali was protected and why the mafia didn't basically make him throw fights and basically take all his money and you know, is because of the Nation of Islam, because the messenger protected him. The messenger protected Muhammad Ali. They know once the messenger said nobody better not bother Muhammad Ali, they left Muhammad Ali alone. As long as Malcolm X stayed up under Elijah Muhammad, he was safe. He was safe. Again, that's God walking in present. That's the Lord walking in present. That was a powerful man walking in the present. You see? And again, you can only do that because you're walking through different time frames. Time frames. Again, you don't get to be a powerful man. You just don't pop up in the world as a powerful man or a powerful woman. You had to be that someplace else before. This is an ongoing and continuous thing. So if you see certain people who become leaders, they were leaders before that. You see, this is something you get over time. This is something you become. This is something you build up into. This is something you are destined to be. You see? This ain't something you just pop into. I want to be in charge. I want to be the leader. No, it don't work like that. You have to be born into that. You have to be destined for that. You see? You have to be destined for that. Amen has to appoint you that. Amen appointed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a.k.a. Khufu, a.k.a. whoever he will return to or regenerate in the future. Amen appointed him. Amen appointed me when I was MENKARAYZZ in the ancient world and to where I am NUBEN MENKARAYZZ today. Amen appointed me. So, and same thing with Dr. York and whatnot, but unfortunately, Dr. York got caught up in present-day things. That's all I'm going to say about that. He got his only crime was getting caught up in present-day nigga nonsense. You know, allowing himself to get caught up in with Al Sharptons and Jesse Jackasses and Wesley Snipes and all these other people getting caught up in that and getting that land. That was his only downfall. So Amen had to sit him down because he started getting caught up with niggas. That was the problem. Dr. York got caught up. He was a bright man that got caught up with a bunch of niggas. See, when he was dealing with Islam back in the day, you know what I'm saying, and you know, even he was dealing with it from a Freemasonic perspective. He was okay. He was okay. Everything was happening. Things were coming together, and he started making a transition out of there. But then, you know, he got caught up in that. He got caught up in time, and that's something that the ones who are of Amen, who were sent from Amen, we ain't supposed to get caught up in time. We ain't supposed to get caught up in this black nonsense. We ain't supposed to get caught up in the circumstances of the black race. We're supposed to be leading our people out of this blackness, out of this thing, this marriage they got with the so-called white man, this back and forth. We're supposed to be as leaders leading our people out of that. And that's what the messenger was trying to do. That's what he was pushing to do. When he was saying the white man was the devil, he was saying that to get the blast the so-called black man and black woman away from the white man. The same way he talked about how the earth was blasted away from the moon, there that explosion to blast the earth from the moon. That's the same way Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to blast the black and white thing apart, break it apart, by showing you that the white man was the damn devil, man, him and his woman. You understand? So y'all stop making them, glorifying them and making them deities and looking up to them. He had to show you who they really were so that you could split away from them. You see? But a lot of you Negroes, y'all can never get that in your mind, get it straight in your minds. A lot of y'all couldn't get that. Especially Malcolm X. They couldn't get that. They showed when he went and sold the messenger out and went on the news thing and talking about the Nation of Islam as a criminal organization. He went right to the devil because, again, that's the devil in him. That was the beast in Malcolm X. That's why he went to the beast against his teacher. You know, he showed himself to be a black man, a man in darkness, an ignorant man. He showed himself to be that. Couldn't see the bigger picture. And that's it. So let me go ahead and read these questions before we get out of here. Was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad the ancient Pharaoh Khufu reborn? Yes, he was. Because again, features don't lie. Like I said, the features, the way he wears the same way he wears his fez in the ancient world, the same way he wore fez in this world, like I said, and the distinctive looks, the slanted eyes, the nose, everything. That was a Pharaoh Khufu, a bronze man. A bronze man who returned to us to lead us in that time frame. All right. Why is that Pharaoh? Because again, he lines up with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They line up. You have to send those who were leaders in the past to be the leaders of the future. You can't just put somebody up there, put a man up there, and he's a leader. He's just a leader all of a sudden. No, it don't work like that. He had to have. It's just like in any job. If you come up to a job and somebody asks you auditioning for something, or you trying to fill out an application for a job, what are they going to ask you? Do you have past experience? Aren't they going to ask you, do you have past experience? Are you going to hire somebody who don't have past experience? So when the messenger was chosen to be the leader of the Nation of Islam by Amen, not by Fard, but by Amen, not by Fard, but by the Most High, the Lord Amen, when Amen chose him, he had to have experience. And where did he get his experience from? From being the Pharaoh Khufu in the ancient world, in the past life. That's where he got his experience from. Amen going to take those who have that experience and put them in the seat of power, not some new jack who just, I want to be a leader. I want to be, no, it don't work like that. Will the messenger be regenerated again? Yeah, he'll be regenerated again, but teaching something totally different. It won't be no damn Islam, and the damn sure won't be out no Quran, but that's probably hundreds and hundreds of years into the future. He'll be back, just like I'll be back. You know. But we're going to be regenerated on a higher level. It's going to still be mental, but on an even higher level. What does this mean for the future evolutions? It means that there'll always be future evolutions. That's what that means. As long as Amen is regenerating us, there will be future evolutions. Because, again, Amen's going to put the one in charge who got the experience, and we got the goddamn experience. We got the experience. We've been there before. Like I told y'all all before, my followers, I said, things I see y'all doing, a lot of stuff I see people doing when they fade to black ain't nothing but a rerun to me. I done been there, done that, already seen it already. This ain't nothing but a rerun. And that's it. We're going to close out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen, and Amen we trust, and Amen we think, and in Amen we continue forward forever. Hail Amen, hail the mentalists. I'll be at Restoration Plaza tomorrow, 1368 Fulton Street. Between New York and Brooklyn Avenue, 1368 Fulton Street. If those who want to attend, find out more information, call 718-510-3769, 718-510-3769, 718-510-3769. My assistant, Mr. Lanier Minjaz, will help you, give you directions to there. Again, I am the intellectual leader, MENKARAYZZ. This has been Intellect Radio. Good night.
Rising out the black race to the white race, out the black race to the white race. It's the Republic of Mentellect, black race to the white race. If it's hell, Amen, then it's hell us. They tried everything just to spell us. Fed us religion, gave us fake gods. Through all of that, we beat the odds. Now we coming together under one flag. Colors red, gold, and blue. Superman, Superwoman, that's me and you. The infinite capabilities that